Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. The meat trade claims some abattoirs could be forced out of business because of changes to fees for meat inspectors and official vets.
They say we are, at the moment, hanging on a thread. We cannot envisage having to pay this extra amount. There will be deserts in the country where there are no abattoirs.
We'll have more on that a little later. First today, trade disruption caused by the war in the Middle East has pushed oil and fertiliser prices up, and farmers here are worried that there could be shortages of imported fertiliser. With this in mind, some farmers are looking at ways of mitigating the situation. All week we're taking a closer look at fertilisers on farms. David Morgan keeps a large herd of beef cattle at Peterchurch in Herefordshire's Golden Valley. He's invested in slurry separating equipment to help produce better homegrown fertiliser for the maize he grows to feed his animals. Bob Hockenhull has been to meet him.
That sound you can hear is farmer Dave Morgan's anaerobic digester hard at work. He's recently installed a new piece of kit, a centrifuge, which, through a second separation process, is helping to reduce the phosphate in the organic fertiliser he spreads on his land.
The idea of the centrifuge is that the liquid that comes off the separator, we then basically separate it again through the centrifuge, pulling a thick sludge and a thinner liquid.
And why are you doing that?
One reason is the fact it makes the liquid a lot more spreadable, a lot more easier to go through precision application kit, dribble bars, etc. The other strong reason is that the separation moves the phosphate. We farm within a fairly reasonably high phosphate situation, and we're finding that we can move a proportion of the phosphate from the liquid back into the solid. What this is all about is having the nutrients in the right place at the right time to do the right job and not overload the nutrient balance where we're putting it.
And the phosphate tends to stay, am I right in saying, in the solids then?
The phosphates and the magnesium seem to move with the solid, so that what is leading us is a liquid that has the same nitrogen and potash in it, but less phosphate. It means that we can use our liquid better to more effect and basically save us purchasing inorganic nitrogen.
It's not just cow manure that makes up the slurry produced here. Maize and chicken dung from a nearby broiler unit goes into the mix. Today, David is being visited by Katie Pritchard, an advisor with the agricultural compliance company CXCS. She says she's impressed with how the technology is helping to prevent phosphate runoff.
Well, it's made a massive difference. If we took a look at numbers, so we were saying roughly a quarter of the phosphate through this additional separation has been removed or moved, so it won't be spread back to land. That has massively increased where Dave can apply this material. Obviously, the imperative, the key first step is looking at soil test results and reviewing the phosphate indices. Through having the phosphate removed by a quarter, we have got more land available to receive this material that Dave farms himself, rather than looking at having to spread it elsewhere on lower indice fields.
So do you think this is the way forward for farmers and that more and more of them will be paying for this technology?
Possibly. You have got to look at it on a farm-by-farm case. What suits one won't suit another. Obviously, anyone who's got a material of high phosphate, it would be great, but you've got to put it in perspective across the whole farm management.
David's pleased with his investment, but it hasn't completely got rid of the need to buy in non-organic fertilisers.
We're trying to reduce our dependence on inorganic fertilisers, but one of the problems you have, especially at this time of the year, when you're doing first crop application, the ground is very tender, and quite often a tractor and a fertiliser spreader can travel a lot lighter than say a tractor and a tanker that's applying. We need to keep that for later in the season.
So we mentioned inorganic fertilisers, and of course at the moment, especially with the trouble in the Middle East, the price is going up.
We've already bought 2 loads of urea last autumn, which we've got in store. If I hadn't bought spring fertilisers yet, I think I'd be very nervous. I'm not sure of the current situation, but I'm told that most prices have been pulled and all boats that were coming are already been sold. But the biggest question is whether they come.
So we might be short of fertiliser.
We'll see what happens, won't we?
Farmer David Morgan there. Food producers, manufacturers, importers and exporters are all being asked to get prepared early for the new trading system under the EU-UK trade agreement, which is expected to come in next year. The new agreement will include a relaxation of the food biosecurity paperwork, known as SPS or Sanitary and Phytosanitary rules. The government is urging all food businesses to stay in touch with their trade bodies and with DEFRA itself so they can keep up to date with the changes which the government says will sweep away time-consuming checks and bureaucracy put in place under the Brexit agreement. Chris Southworth is Secretary-General of the International Chambers of Commerce.
I think that's particularly important for the likes of farmers, producers who are trading into the EU, especially in the sort of meat sector, sectors that are dealing with a lot of bureaucracy. This is a big deal. Companies and farmers have been complaining about this for a long time. So it's good news. I think the challenge is how do we get that information out to everybody involved? For UK businesses, this will be seen as a real positive, and it gives us at least maybe a year to lead into it and prepare business.
What do they need to do first?
If we're going to prioritise, definitely join government webinars to raise awareness, share the news with peers. I think everybody wins from this. This is not a sort of competitiveness exercise. It's just about everybody winning. And then just start applying the rules when they come in.
We did talk to businesses, though, that had invested quite a lot of money into their own systems or facilities to manage their own border checks, which are now redundant. So could some companies be left with white elephants?
I don't think so. I mean, I think this is all an evolution, especially given everything else going on in the world. The UK-EU relationship is becoming more important. This is 40% of our trade in the UK overall. This is a huge area of friction. That's really easy to underestimate.
There have been concerns about biosecurity. If all the paperwork goes, all the checks go, and it's nice and easy, as you say, isn't it the case that some biosecurity checks could go missing?
Well, the proof is when you move into a digital environment, and we do this digitally, it's much more secure than it is on paper, for sure. The opportunity here is really to have an interoperable system where all governments are talking across the borders. So from a company point of view, you submit your information once, and then you can transmit that across the border to the other jurisdiction, whoever that is. But if you look at the likes of South Africa, they're already doing this. They're doing it to the point where you know where you pick the apple, you know where it's produced, you know where it's boxed, you know where it's going, absolutely every single step of the way. We should be doing exactly the same with the UK and Europe, for sure. But the technology solutions are there. It's just about applying those solutions to the UK-Europe trade corridor and removing a lot of friction.
Chris Southworth from the International Chambers of Commerce. The Association of Independent Meat Suppliers, or AIMS, says increased charges for Food Standards Agency staff, such as abattoir vets and inspectors, could threaten some operations. The new charges for 2026-27 come into force at the end of the month, and the hourly rate for some services will be more than 20% higher. The Food Standards Agency say a global vet shortage means they're having to pay more to recruit and retain staff, and there are other inflationary pressures across the sector. Peter Hewson, Veterinary Director at AIMS, told me how the discount scheme is changing.
The costs are increasing this year by about 24% to the industry as a whole. The very small abattoirs are well protected, but the medium-sized and large abattoirs will pay considerably more, and FSA have told us this is because there are fewer hours of official controls being carried out, but because there are no efficiency savings, the cost per hour goes up, and also their contractors' costs have gone up because of skilled worker costs, bringing people in from overseas, and national insurance costs.
Now, AIMS is saying that those costs are going up by about 24%, which seems like a very big hike, but that's not completely the same across the board, is it?
No, the 24% is made up of about a £7 million increase in costs and a £3 million reduction in discount. So those people that only operate for up to 66 hours a month, they'll get a discount of 90% and 75% on all their hours, as will all other abattoirs. But once that 66 hours a month has gone, then the full cost recovery will come into play.
So does that mean then it does depend what size abattoir or how busy your abattoir is as to how much it's going to get affected by this?
Well, all abattoirs will be affected seriously, except for the very small. We see the worst affected being the medium-sized abattoir, and they're looking at increased costs of between £50,000 and £100,000 a year next year. A lot of them actually are very much involved in the export trade. They slaughter, do a lot of contract killing. The really big abattoirs, of course, do get a benefit of scale, but the medium-sized don't.
Well, if you say that the medium-sized abattoirs could face up to £100,000 loss, I mean, surely some of those will be seriously affected. Would they actually be put out of business with increased costs like that?
They tell us so. They say we are, at the moment, hanging on a thread. We cannot envisage having to pay this extra amount. That will have serious implications for farming. There will be deserts in the country where there are no abattoirs, where farmers can't take their stock for local slaughter, for farm shops and the like, and animals will have to travel a lot further distance to get slaughtered.
Why should the Food Standards Agency have this discount system when, it's operating with highly qualified inspectors and veterinary officers? Why have a discount system there at all?
We say the FSA should only charge for the actual cost of the inspection. The vets and half the meat inspectors are supplied by profit-making contractors. So if we look at next year, an OV is going to be charged out at very nearly £80 an hour. He or she will only be paid about £20 an hour. So there's a 300% overhead there, which we don't think there should be there. And without it, there would not be a need for a discount system.
Are you saying then that basically the system needs to change, that there needs to be more transparency?
There's two changes that are desperately required. One is a more efficient delivery of official controls, and the other is an understandable charging system that drives efficiency. The rest of Europe operate on a headage system. The operator pays so much per head, so €5 a beast. AIMS would want that EU system. It's much, much less costly to implement. The only thing is it doesn't allow for profit making by contractors.
Peter Hewson from the Association of Independent Meat Suppliers. In a statement, the Food Standards Agency said, "Every day, our official vets and meat hygiene inspectors carry out checks that help keep British meat safe. Unfortunately, the cost of delivering this assurance is rising. We scrutinise and challenge cost increases rigorously, as we would any publicly funded contract, and publish comprehensive information showing how we arrive at our charge rates. At the same time, the total funding available for the discount on our charges is reducing. This year, the meat industry received £14.9 million in discount support. Next year, this will be £11.8 million, still a significant contribution. We will shortly be consulting on proposals to reform how discount support is distributed, and we genuinely want to hear from across the sector." That's all from us today. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.